Hi, my name is Daudi Mugabi and this is Business Mike, episode 6. My guest today is Arnold Sentuwa, a co-founder of a Ugandan tech company called Yo Uganda. In this episode, Arnold shares some experience from his business, including tips on how to strategically use the internet for global exposure. All this and more next on Business Mike. Thank you so much, Arnold, for sparing your time to be here with us today. Could you briefly tell us who you are and what you do?
My full name is Arnold Sentuwa. I'm a founder of actually two companies. One of the companies is Yo Uganda Limited, and the other is Derrick Furniture and Fittings. I started Yo Uganda in 2006, and we've been growing year on year. Then I also actually began Derrick Furniture and Fittings in 2010.
Did you have any inspiration from someone out there, someone who was in those businesses doing it? Were you inspired by anyone to start those businesses?
I've not particularly picked any inspiration from particular individuals. My real driving force is that I get ideas and I feel like I want to implement them, as opposed to being seeing someone else maybe him being successful or they may be making money. It's actually things that I really think can actually make a change, something really that I find interesting and can have maybe an impact on the way services or a particular product is actually delivered to the general market. That's what actually inspires me.
So is that what inspired Yo? Can you tell us about Yo Uganda, how that came about?
Yo Uganda started with one of my friends, then actually a co-workmate, Gerald Begumisa. I worked with him for close to about 3 years, and then he built a very interesting software platform, and then he came and actually talked to me and told me that he would be interested in opening up a company. I looked at the capabilities of the software platform that he had actually built, and to something which I actually found to be very interesting and I believed in. The original business idea was for us to operate a voice over IP company. However, it required us to buy a license from Uganda Communications Commission, but then the actual connectivity, we had to buy services from existing telcos then, which were at the time Celtel, MTN, and Uganda Telecom. But we immediately realized that we could not be buying services from someone who is providing voice services, conventional voice services, GSM, and then be able to compete with them using the internet protocol. Basically, the interconnectivity rates that they were giving us were just pricing us out. It made the products unviable. So despite the fact that so many of us invested a lot of time and a lot of money in purchasing the licenses, over time, it was just a matter of time before we had to change business models. Then a few of us, that is Yo Uganda and Rock Telecom, evolved to provide other services using the very infrastructure we had built for voice over IP to go into different business lines. For example, ourselves, given the fact that we're dependent on a very good software platform to deliver the service, we immediately realized our potential in providing software solutions to other companies. For example, at the time, a US company in the form of 3G networks made an assessment of our software, and they actually bought it for use in their systems in the US. Another company called Vogotech also bought a piece of our software to be able to use it in their services, again, in the US.
How do you get those connections? For instance, how does a Ugandan company liaise with another one outside Uganda to make such a deal happen?
Right now, what everyone has to realize is that we're living in the internet age. If someone is properly placed in terms of directories for particular services, quickly people can catch on to the service that you're providing. Now, depending on the quality of service that you're providing or product that you have, it's very easy for those particular persons who are actually interested in your service to trust you, because besides you actually providing this particular service, the fact that you are advertising in such a public space where actually there are so many other actually similar service providers, it would actually show that actually you're very confident about actually the product that you're actually selling. They have even actually comparative. If, like, let's say for example, you've say voice over IP telecom billing engine, and you've advertised it in a voice over IP service providers forum. So many other vendors are actually part of that forum. So they will want actually to have a look at the platform or system that you have, software system that you have. So ultimately, they will try to make assessments and evaluation of the product that you're actually providing. And then the basis of that, they will maybe give recommendations that you could change this maybe to do this, you could change this maybe to do this, or they could actually give a rating for your product and say this, what you're providing is up to the world mark. In any case, every time you are creating anything, if you try as much as possible to put it at global standard, to try to be amongst the best, the likelihood that you always actually chance on getting clients all over the world is very high.
Now, you mentioned you started Yo when you're working with someone, Gerald, elsewhere. Did you start Yo on the side as you were still working, or did you quit your job and do Yo full time?
Unfortunately, what most people actually never realize is that businesses, irrespective of how good your idea is, businesses do not immediately make money. For most people, when they're actually beginning companies, especially in Uganda, most of them actually have been employed. But for my case, I had to guarantee myself a certain minimum amount of income over a period of time until such time that the company that I'm opening has actually said earning some income in order for me to be able to sustain myself and my day-to-day chores. But like, even my savings in themselves could not sustain me for a period of like maybe 2 or 3 years. It's not my calculation at the time. It did not show good judgment if I left the company where I was working just because I've opened up a company and with just the feeling that it's going to be successful. To a certain extent, that risk is uncalculatable. You never know exactly actually what direction your company is going to take. It's a risk that you're taking, but at the same time you have got to be cautious about things actually might not turn out exactly as you might actually think. So both of us actually remain still in the employment of our former employer, while at the same time we're actually setting up. Also at the same time, the company which we were actually working for was an IT company. As much as possible, we tried to make sure that we did not replicate any of the services or products that the other company was providing to the general market. And neither did we actually attempt to cannibalize on any of his existing clientele, because some of the ideas actually came into our minds because we have been actually exposed to IT within that particular company. But now, like, as in, we recognized the spaces that that company had actually left out, and we saw an opportunity.
So how do you come up with new services or products to deploy in the market?
For some of the solutions we've actually built, the actual technical descriptions have been provided to us by the clients. We've also actually been able to develop particular products as a result of us actually analyzing particular situations and assessing an opportunity. Personally, I do a lot of actually reading in so many different spaces. I'm actually subscribed to so many groups and forums on LinkedIn, obviously actually relevant to the field in which I'm actually operating in terms of business, because much as possible, you have to know that if you do not continue doing these things, you could actually be caught off guard by maybe just changes in law. You could be caught off guard with someone else actually who is much larger than you, providing similar services at prices which you cannot compete with. So you have to have your ear on the ground, knowing exactly what is taking place in your particular industry of operation. So that is one of the ways we adapt in keeping ourselves up to date and evolving to innovate better products and better services to keep ourselves in the industry.
Are there any mistakes you've made along your journey that maybe you could help people with that are just starting their entrepreneurial journey?
Yes, I've actually made several mistakes. I'm a person of actually very high energy. I am very meticulous in the way I do my things. I really actually love doing something and paying particular attention to very small details. The problem now, like when you're actually now like an entrepreneur, a director of a company with multiple interests, not limited actually to particular one company, but multiple maybe companies. The mistakes that I've actually made is trying to chew on chunks which are actually larger than what I can actually carry. For example, I can say if a day could be extended by an extra 8 hours, I would be so happy, but it's impossible. And I have that feeling just because I'm actually trying to do more than I can actually do. So my real mistake is that I never prepared myself well enough to delegate some of my functions to other people. I'm very poor at delegating. That is one of the mistakes that I've done. So it has actually led me into believing either that people are either incompetent or they're just not interested in their services. And it has actually hurt the speed at which some of my businesses would actually blossom. It continues actually to be a challenge to me. So it's a mistake that I was not very prepared for at the time when I was actually getting into my own business. So that is my mistake. I never prepared myself for delegation.
And are there any happy moments that you've had in you? Any high points that stand out?
We've had actually several. There is a time when it was actually problematic for anyone actually to get connectivity for an SMS, an SMPP connection at the telcos. And I fought tooth and nail for about a month, and I actually got connection to all the existing telcos then. That was around 2007. I think that was actually the highlight of my happy time of having felt like achieving or accomplishing actually something really large. Maybe the second one was my signing of the first account contract that really brought in the real, tangible, serious money towards the end of 2006 with the Uganda Health Marketing Group. And the fact that at the end of the year in 2007, the product that I actually suggested to them, which was actually used for their Good Life show and their programs, won the HCPA award. Those have been actually the highlights of or the most happy time that I've had at Yo Uganda.
Okay. So in your business, the overall structure, what's the one thing that you look out for the most?
There's no particular area in any business that is unimportant. Because if you say that technical is very important and you paid attention only to technical, then accounts might suffer. If you pay attention just to accounts without taking care of, let's say, like human resource, there's a tendency that you'll have unhappy employees. If you pay attention maybe to the general welfare of the employees without really doing a proper analysis of their productivity, there's still a chance that your company may not actually function the way it's supposed to function. So all departments are equally important. But the key thing that I actually pay attention to, identifying individuals or employees to work with that are self-motivated as opposed to being people that I have to push to achieve my objectives. So that's what I actually deem to be the most important aspect of any business. So for any area of your company, you should be able to identify and take on people who are self-driven as opposed to people that you have to drive to achieve your objectives.
How do you, for instance, if it's an interview process, how do you identify a self-driven person? What qualities do they show during a normal interview?
One of the things that I actually always use in my interviews, the job has been actually advertised, the responsibilities are there. I might actually ask several questions just to find out the competencies of that individual in terms of what they know and understand. But after that, the onus is always upon that individual to describe the particular job that I have for them in detail of how they're going to be running it. So if they don't have that vision, then there's a tendency that these are people that you'll have to give and say, okay, today these are the reports you have to prepare me, this is the time that I'm supposed to hand them in. Now, such an individual that you have to keep on sending reminder emails, check on from time to time, can be identified during the interview. So the way they describe to me their job, it shows you exactly whether they are people who are going to be doing the job that they understand without having to be monitored from time to time or not. So that is what actually tells me. The individuals who actually seep through, and you've actually believed that they'll be able to do the job, but over time you find out that they have to be pushed, they have to be guided, you have to be on their cases. But it's quite exhausting. The other thing is that it's counterproductive, as in it kills the relationship between you and the employee. You kind of now actually stand out so much as a boss, as opposed to being colleagues within the same company.
So earlier you mentioned that you founded two companies, there's Yo Uganda and Derek Furniture.
Yes.
Now the two are very different. One is software, the other is carpentry. Why did you start the carpentry thing? Was there a gap in the market? Was it a passion on the side? What caused that?
During the time when I actually grew up, several of my uncles were actually engineers. And I was lucky that I started actually being at construction sites from the time when I was, I think, the age of maybe 7 or 8. I've always wanted to have actually a workshop, not just actually for purposes of manufacturing things on my own, but also as a way of exercising, like physical exercise. The level of creativity and change in, for example, furniture, ironworks, it moves at such a slow pace that it really tells you that there's a lack of creativity. The real driving force, as I actually told you, I'm a person of actual ideas. As much as actually I would say that I would love to have a workshop, I want us actually to introduce a new twist in the particular manufacturing industry. Now, in order for you to be able to do a very fine product here in Uganda, there's a tendency that you're going to attach a very big price tag on it. Obviously now, the number of people that you're going to be looking for as your client are limited immediately. But if you want to be able to access a very large market, you've got to find methods and means of automating some of the processes. For example, adapting computer technologies, adapting machines that do more than one function. Yes, they're pricey, but if you actually committed to something like that, you don't need to have all the money with you at a particular given point of time. With very small savings of, let's say, about $150 or $200, over time you'll be able to afford a machine of $1,000 or maybe even $1,500. That's 10 months. So you're in operation, you are saving every month a little bit of this money, depending on how much you've actually earned. Over here, you'll be able to achieve one of the machines that takes out several other duties which are not competently being done by individuals with hands. I believe that the adaptation of some of the things that I've learned in IT for production is very key. In the US, they actually used, and the West, they actually developed robots. And basically, you can see they can mass produce maybe 1 million cars within record time. And we don't have this here. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to take into the production process for other areas.
For anyone listening who is about to start a business, what advice would you give them?
Do not try to do anything for the money. You should really love what you're doing. If you're going to try to do a business for the sake of the money, chances are you quickly lose interest in that, and whatever you will have actually invested is most likely to die down. Even your success will be limited because you'll be so focused on the wrong thing as opposed to focusing on the right things, which is actually providing a very good service to the customers, and then the customers can give you money in return for your effort, as opposed to you focusing on the money. Yeah. So for anyone who is actually going into a business, they should be able to do something they really believe in and really like. If it's anything that you don't like, you won't be successful. Yeah.
Now the very last question is, if the tables were turned and now you're the host of the show and the guest, what question would you ask me?
I would definitely ask you, what interest do you have in interviewing entrepreneurs?
What interest do I have in interviewing entrepreneurs?
Yes.
I love interviewing entrepreneurs because I get various perspectives on similar things. One person might be doing a particular venture in one way and they're successful. Someone else is doing the exact same thing in a different way and they're all successful. Now, it would be much better if you had a point of view from different people and you can basically assess that idea or perspective on an issue from different angles, including your own. So the more entrepreneurs I interview, the more answers I get, the bigger a database of insight on business from various people who are successful in their fields, and give the people out there who are listening that option to see what they can do best with their businesses. So that's it. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So finally, how can people get in touch with you? Any website for your businesses or yourself?
I've got a website for Yo Uganda, www.yo.co.ug. Then for dairy furniture and fittings, I really actually did not believe that a website would be that useful, so I have actually a Facebook page.
Oh, okay.
That actually better, because the kind of furniture that we're actually doing is much more interactive, so I believe it should be something like, it should be like a happy place. And I believe Facebook is actually happy. So our page is Dairy Furniture and Fittings Limited on Facebook.
Okay, I'll put all those links on the show notes page for anyone to get in touch with you. Thank you so much, Arnold, for your time, and have a very lovely day.
Likewise. Thank you very much for the interview.
Thank you so much for listening to Business Mike today. And if you'd like to listen to more episodes just like this one, simply go to businessmike.com. For all the links and resources mentioned in this particular episode, simply type the name Arnold into the search bar to access his show notes page. Thanks again for listening, and until next time, take care.